Morning, everyone. Please welcome Joel Cohen, Ethan Cohen, Oscar Isaac, and John Goodman. Everybody in the audience who knows who Junior Brown is, raise your hand.
Yeah, see? A few people.
Yeah, Brad Goffler in the front. Okay. I wanted to start the ball rolling with a question about music and to find out at what point you guys arrived at the songs that are in the film. At what point you started working with T-Bone Burnett on choice of music. Can you hear? No. Okay, I think that this mic's not really good. I'm going to grab it. I just wanted to start off with a question about music and at what point in the process the actual songs that are in the film became part of the conversation when they started working on T-Bone Burnett.
Well, a couple, I can't remember which, but maybe a couple of the songs were specified in the script. We kind of thought as we were writing a couple of them, what might go into a couple of places, but certainly not most of them. And T-Bone was the first person who sent the script to when we were finished with it, so that conversation just started basically as soon as we were done with the script and we were going to do the movie.
We were thinking about specifically about finishing rock when we were thinking about the script and writing the script. So a lot of the songs in the movie are sort of songs that he sang or associated with them songs he recorded. So those songs, some of those songs were sort of there from the beginning. And then, like we always do. Yeah, Pink Song, but yeah, that's great. But then it was sort of like you were to keep on, all right, is this part of the story and what's going to be what's going to happen here?
And then after Oscar was cast, were there any songs that you brought into the conversation?
Yeah, I think Green Rocky Road, the one I played in the car, that was one. And then we just kept, the big question for me, because it wasn't in the script, was the song that I played for F. Murray. And that one, there was some time when we weren't sure what it was, and so I was looking at a bunch of different songs as well. And so it was surprising that one ended up being the one.
John, you don't sing any songs in the movie, sorry.
I did internally. My interior monologue was scored.
Hi, I'd like to ask Joel and Ethan.
We have a waiting mic.
Hi, I'd like to ask Joel and Ethan, is failure more interesting to write about and make a movie about than success with this biography of a fictional song writer, folk singer? And also, how do you pick your subjects? There always seem to be, sort of eclectic.
I'm sorry, what was the second part? How did we... Oh. Well, the success movies have been done, haven't they? It's less interesting as sort of from a story point of view, I think. Well, in fact, I don't even know how we would start to think about that one. How do we pick our subjects?
Into the mic.
Yeah, but I haven't said anything. We just talk about whatever. It just comes out of the conversation. It's not like picking a subject implies there's something really specific we're picking, but it's kind of not like that. We talk about whatever. In the case of this movie, a scene, the village that the kind of folk revival, or whatever, and possible ideas about a character, and it's just a very, very, very vague conversation that gets progressively more concrete.
I haven't read the press kit yet, so I don't know what your telling, but I love the film. And I saw that you made a Greek adaptation from the Odyssey. And instead of the dog, you put the cat, Ulysses. He recognizes him. And so it's gorgeous. I mean, you make it, at the very end, that is the conscience, because I couldn't understand the beginning with the cruelty and all that. But what I love. I just was wondering if John Goodman was a siren or what was that?
I thought that was understood. I must work on it.
The last couple of movies with us have been the Homeric things. Yeah, right. We kind of thought about it as an odyssey in which the main character doesn't go anywhere.
Wait for the mic. It's on its way.
Hi, thank you. Even though Dylan only gets a little bit at the end, so much of the movie in our mind is everything before Dylan and after Dylan. And I was wondering, given so many of the traditional songs versus Dylan, who wrote his own material, could you comment about the whole cultural phenomenon, and in the case of poor Llewyn, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, he's got a lot to compete with now. What about the copying other people versus your own original material? Could you talk about that contrast in the movie?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a big subject, and it sort of goes to the heart of what folk music is in a way, and also it was, the cultural moment that you're talking about was sort of specifically on our mind when we were thinking about the story, because we wanted to do something that was set in the scene before Dylan showed up, specifically. We weren't that interested in the period. I mean, he came onto that scene and he sort of changed it, and he was such a transformative figure. And people know more about that, and it seemed less interesting to us. But you're right. It's there's a big difference between. There were people obviously writing songs and singing them before Bob Dylan showed up, but the era of the sort of singer-songwriter there was sort of a pivot that was happening right around there in terms of interpreters of traditional folk music and people who were writing their own stuff, and Dylan was sort of one of the big catalysts of that. And there was, as has also been noted, there was a sort of obsession with a certain kind of authenticity in quotation marks and having to do with traditional music that the people involved in this early folk revival were very concerned with. And that had sometimes, both interesting and sort of ironic repercussions, or there were interesting and ironic aspects to that. That was also something that was interesting to us. But as I say, we were thinking about that. It's a big, big subject.
Oscar, do you have anything to add to that?
As far as,
Well, actually, in terms of what you brought to the character.
well, yeah, I guess, the idea of the guy that's trying to be authentic and only plays old songs, but the culture around him, or the scene at least, is moving on from that. And if they're moving on, what is he supposed to do if that's how he feels the most true to himself, I guess, is playing old songs. And it's just interesting, because, in a way, these folk musicians were like curators, or DJs, they would collect these songs and present them. And then, once you had to sort of collect the records, you realize, well,